what is actually well-being then for software professionals? So why are we going to talk about that? Richard, can you take the word and talk a little bit about your experience and why this is a big topic we should all take care of?
Yeah, so I think interestingly for me, I've always been physically active. So well-being used to mean to me just physical health, right? And so I've always thought, yeah, I've got that down. I've always gone to the gym. I've played football. I've played squash. I've done running. So that's always been something that's there. And actually, only later in my career did I realize how much that was helping me along the way. But I wasn't doing it deliberately. I wasn't doing it for that purpose. And I hadn't connected the dots. Reflecting more on my career and some of my challenges and trying to piece it all together, and thinking a bit more about the mindset, about mental health and all of that kind of stuff, I realized well-being is much broader than just your physical health. And I think one of the biggest and most interesting things about well-being is that it's very individualistic. And so that is, it's good and it's bad in a sense, because the fact that it's so individualistic means that we can't just put a single label on it. So we can't say to everyone, this is well-being and you've got it or you don't. And so for some people that's hard and it's complicated. On the flip side, it's actually really good for us because well-being means different things to different people, and we decide what being means to us. And that's super important, and it touches, it's very closely linked to a big part of what we're talking about here, which is responsibility. And almost the first part of our responsibility is to define and to recognize what being means to us. And so just broad stroke, that's your physical health, your mental health, feeling safe in the environment that you find yourself in, and feeling safe being social with people as well. And yeah, that's a broad thing, and those different things mean different things to different people, and it's finding your mix of those and then branching out to the things that contribute positively to them, which can also be completely different for different people. So suddenly everything's grown legs and it's huge.
Hello. I promise we'll practice that intro a little bit more. You're still muted, Adrian. Not sure if that's a device problem.
No.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. Not so tired as yesterday.
Tired? Yeah.
No, not so tired.
Not so tired as yesterday. Oh, I had put go out and spend time on sunshine on my calendar because
Sunshine.
I've been hermiting it up. And the only time that I get free time is after the kids go to bed, and I can't get any sunlight after that point. It's just
I see sunlight in your background. There is some.
It is in my background.
Some rest of sunlight there.
Yeah, I mean, I do have sunlight and I have some greenery, in front of my window. But I just crave that feeling of going out and being kissed by the sun. Like just being able to just spend time, fresh air, sunshine, etc., just to recharge. Because I felt it. For those of you who don't know, I have two kids, two twins, who are a little bit over 1 year old now, and we are adopting a sleep schedule change right now to match their upcoming kindergarten schedule. So everybody's sort of shifting down 3 hours in our sleep schedule. And it destroyed me. Like it literally destroyed me. And I'm just constantly feeling jet lagged. And I guess I will be for a few more days. But we're getting there. But we didn't move the stream times. So I've been super tired lately on the streams because it's been sort of way late in my day compared to when we started last year in August. Okay.
So shall we change something then? So we are actually bringing kids to bed around 8 or 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. But we also want to make it still palatable and attractive to our regular audience. So I would like to not do any radical changes very quickly. If anything, maybe move one of the streams down, see how it performs, and then check if it has a negative, unexpected side effect on our regulars or on our audience, or a positive one, But that definitely not my main focus right now. Yeah, so I picked a topic for today. So Thursdays are usually my topics, and today we are pursuing a topic from what I termed software engineering fundamentals, and we're sort of going through what's turned out to be just the fundamental extreme programming disciplines, the extreme programming practices, because it really covers like 95% of like what you need to know as a software engineer, as a professional software engineer, not just as a coder, not just as a developer, regardless of whether you're front end, back end, data. And today we're talking about refactoring, but not so much about refactoring in the sense that I will teach you everything there is about refactoring.
What?
Really,
Why?
it's a too sort of plastic topic to cover in one session. So today's session is basically guilt-free refactoring. So the idea that you don't have time to refactor, you're pressed with a deadline, you're pressed with an angry manager, you're pressed to deliver, and you see refactoring as this sunk cost of, well, I can work on the feature or I can refactor and then maybe write a test, but I would much rather, I'm super stressed out that the feature is not finished. I'm super stressed out that the feature is not finished. So when you touch an activity or create a commit that says I refactored something, it comes usually comes with a tinge of guilt or shame or anxiety, and that's what we want to discuss today. And then I'm going to show you a few refactorings that you can do extremely quickly and extremely simply.
Yeah.
And I promise the code editor is coming on screen in the next 5 minutes, so we get over it as soon as possible. And then once we've gone through the cookie, we can then do the waffling, and we can then chat and sort of explore alternatives. My question to you, to the audience, while we prep the stage, is: do you ever feel guilty for refactoring, or do you have this internal dialogue of should I not, how much should I, when should I stop? Like, what does it look like for you? How do you experience this? Is your experience with refactoring mostly positive, or is it mostly negative, or do you end up being in your head and then procrastinating?
That's another question, which is actually a prerequisite for the question, is: are you actually in the same situation like Dennis was describing, like this pressure situation where you actually don't have time, where you have a manager telling you should finish your stuff, and you try to take the shortest route instead of the, let's say, route of the engineer or the engineers should have picked? So that would be an interesting question to you all as well. Please tell us in the comments. Right.
Okay. So Caloran has a, hey Caloran.
Hello.
Being tired is a good prerequisite for refactoring. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we need merch. See, we need OTJ merch. Guilt-free refactoring. I like that. We should actually have OTJ merch. It says guilt-free. I refactor guilt-free. We should have that. I refactor guilt-free. Oh, that's great. Anjana, hello. It's great of you to join us. So I really like that there is a natural split now between the platforms. So we have a few regulars on LinkedIn, we have a few regulars on YouTube, we have a few regulars on Twitch. I'm really happy that sort of everybody has picked their platform of choice, their player of choice, their sort of streaming device of choice, so that we can really focus on the stream without having to deal with, honestly, mostly LinkedIn's video streaming issues and chat issues. So it has a positive effect, I think, to be streaming now on multiple platforms.
Yes,
So,
it does.
so thank you for setting that up, Adrian. That was mostly Adrian doing the hard backstage work of figuring out how to brand these and how to connect these and how to sort of make them palatable, to how to localize them.
So let's say streaming to X is quite, let's say, inexpensive. It is just clicking 2 buttons. Twitch is a little bit more complicated.
Twitch was by far the most
YouTube was
complicated.
done by you, so
Yeah.
I would say it's 50-50 though. And yes, the community is shortly before starting right now. We'll probably set it up this evening finally. We have decided for everything. And now we're going to execute. So for the next time, for the regulars, it's an interesting point that we already provide something for you there. Good. I would say let's start with the code editor to get some people attracted to the stream today.
So I have 2 code editors today. I'm going to start with the simple one, which is going to be a little bit of, okay, that was the wrong one. That's the one. So this is where we left off yesterday. This is where we left off yesterday, and I believe...
Have you committed and pushed the changes?
I have, but I don't have write permissions on this branch. I just checked.
I forgot to fix it. Sorry, I really need to do that.
I think you gave me write permissions on main, but I don't have... The code is not on main. And you didn't give me write permissions on develop, and the code is on develop, I think. But I did. But I can't I don't want to mess with your branching setup right now. So please fix it, and then I'll just cherry pick the changes over. So what we have here on the screen is an exercise from yesterday. And I already wanted to highlight that there are some refactorings that we're able to make, which are really simple. Because Adrian, you already noticed a refactoring that we should have done. And that was this one. We immediately saw that there is something going on here that is not quite optimal. Right, so we had...
Okay,
so
go ahead.
What code smell do you see on the screen?
Well, so yesterday we've talked about that we actually have the children there. So we basically talked yesterday about that we should have some kind of guided structure. And let's say allowing JSX inside a property is let's say the opposite of a primitive thing.
Exactly.
It is basically, you can basically put an entire application inside there, and we don't want to have that. So that would be something I would call a code smell. Actually, the children itself should be called differently.
So we're heavily coupled to React ecosystem, right?
That's
and
true.
plus we haven't typed the children. We haven't said that, hey, we haven't created a type for a very simple text fragment. You could put an entire application in there, but we are designing a notification component, and it won't perform well if you put a router in there, right? So the idea of what this represents is not cohesive to how it is being used. And we wanted to create mocks for this so that we can easily express the test, so that we don't have to fake it, so that we will sort of gradually move towards some kind of provider or some kind of fetch request or query. So I figured that today we could use this as a simple example to highlight one of the 3 exercises that I want to showcase today. So just to give our viewers a little bit of context, we'll be looking for 3 different refactoring concepts. Very simple refactoring concepts. Some of these are inspired by Kent Beck's recent book, Tidy First. And those 2 would be guard blocks and extract helper. And the third one is actually I picked up from a talk by Kevin Henney, a ACCU talk, or ACCU, I don't know how exactly you pronounce that conference, ACCU, talk by Kevin Henney, where he's talking about mutation points. So the mutation points I'll be showing in a different code base, just to get to the point very quickly. But here we can already practice guard blocks and helpers. Now, what's the point, right? So what's the point? The point is that if I'm under stress, I might be extremely tempted to say, I will fix this later. I will fix this later. I will fix this later. And then I end up creating an endless slew of notifications, and I keep repeating myself. I keep doing things that are a fix for the symptom of me not having dealt with this, and I then have, let's say, suboptimal ergonomics from everything I'm doing up from this point. So the point that we're doing today is I will also show you how to simply separate out your refactorings from code changes. And I will then quickly demonstrate how to easily separate out your behavior change from refactorings with a few Git magic commands. You want to help? In what role do you want to be here, Adrian?
So the point is that you are actually the person who's directing today. So I would see myself in a commenting role today, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because maybe we should have switched, but we haven't prepared that yet. So I would go on with that.
Yeah, I haven't prepared the material in such a way that I could give you the code base in a simple way.
So let's go just with that. It's totally fine, I think.
Okay, but it is your code base, right? So I do require your input regarding the domain, right? Because we're building a Tailwind app for the Wednesday episodes, and I do want to stay consistent with that. But I noticed that we ended yesterday with, we should refactor that, and I said, okay, great, we can do it tomorrow. And so let's.
And the point is, maybe which we can start already, is refactoring is actually an ongoing topic. So having it is not a great occasion, or let's say something very random that we say we want to refactor. In my opinion, refactoring to some degree is always the case. So I end up, when I write a component, a class or something like that, it is basically never finished when I stop writing it. There's always something I can improve in just a matter of a minute, which accumulates over time and reduces cold smells, tech debt maybe a little bit, and all this kind of stuff. So I would say, exactly, tomorrow is here. That's a good point, right?
Very good.
So instead of adding useless to-do comments into the code base to refactor here,
I actually turned on the linter. IntelliJ has a linter that throws a warning or an error when you leave to-do comments in the code base.
Yeah, you can have that with Husky as well, that you prevent people from pushing things, which includes to-dos. So, but let's go ahead then. So we want to refactor first of all the things we just mentioned, which is the label thing, and that we actually type it correctly, so that we actually only have a string as a label.
Yes. And I just want to run it because I noticed that I turned it off. So
shall we do it a little bit like the TDD way, that we just change the mock and work towards that the mock becomes green?
We could, but I don't have any test runners right here because I
don't need
want
it.
to do
It is just the linter of TypeScript, which is then helping.
Okay, yeah, we can do that, right? So one of the structurally neutral refactorings is that if your code compiles and you do a very simple structured refactoring, then your compiler or your linter will already tell you if your refactoring was correct. Now, there might still be weird side effects, unintended side effects, that you need to brain parse, you need to understand, right? So we are also in the context of refactoring without tests, which is the whole point. If your team is not actively doing TDD and they don't know how to refactor without tests, they are stuck. They will never have tests and they will never refactor. Right? Because if your code is not test covered, then you will have to refactor it in order to write the first test for it, right? So you will have to suspend your standard for aesthetics just to do an unsafe refactor, a sort of a little bit more stressful refactor that might be more time consuming, but in a safe, small way, in order to get to the point of, okay, now I can add a test to it. This is hard to test. Why? Because I'm mixing JSX and I'm mixing React responsibilities, And this is now typed as a JSX element, and that is not a JavaScript primitive, right? So I cannot serialize this, because even if I said this is a JSX primitive, the JSX.element property means a very particular thing that is domain rich and domain contextual specifically to this version of React. Right? So JSX.element means something different if I use the React version 14.
Yes.
That's why it's so hard to write tests for the UI, because most engineers are not used to separating out their tests from the types of the framework they're using. You can use the framework in your tests, no problem, but you need to separate out yourself from the types of the framework. And if you're using React.js, like the old, like non-TypeScript version of React, that is extremely difficult, because you might be programming so defensively that you're constantly fighting the typing system or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Or you're just being clumsy, or you're just letting exceptions sort of go rampant and just cause wildfire across your code base. So that's lesson number one. It's very hard to test if you do not isolate yourself from the typing system of the frameworks you're using. This might be a framework, an ORM, a linter, a validator, a Zod. Zod produces domain-rich types, but it's really important not to be coupled to the internals of Zod. The Z dot something. So another thing that I do with coaching is I have a plugin installed called Key Promoter X. I wholeheartedly recommend that you install this plugin. Because what does it do? If I right-click this and I say refactor and I say rename, you see the bottom right notification? It says, hey, dummy, the thing you just spent a lot of time renaming and finding in the menu actually has a shortcut. It's Shift F6. This is one of the first things I do as a coach with people I program with. If they have hotkeys, we install this plugin. Not because I don't want to write there back as, hey, there's a shortcut for that. Hey, there's a shortcut for that. Did you know that there's a shortcut for that? I got tired of that. Turns out there's a plugin for it. And I just help them create incentives for themselves to learn their shortcuts. So we're sort of gamifying the editing, the programming experience. Right. So what we can do here is I'm already unhappy with how this is structured. Right. So how would you refactor it? What would you tackle first? Right. So we have several things. I would go for JSX.
Yeah, sorry.
So what would you do? Or the usage?
I would do the most severe thing. So what I would get rid of is, we've talked about that quite often, is JSX, and this is the first I want to get rid of, because we can do that with relative ease, not much of an effort, and we should do this. This is a low-hanging fruit, and just do it and it's done, actually. And what I would do is I would change it here right now, as it's supposed to be. Then it should be red, because the linter then should say, no, I don't want to have this. And then we fix the types and interfaces in order to match it, and take a look what happens then.
So this type that is not in this file forces us to have props with children. So the children type needs to be a children prop from React, and the mock is honoring that type. Now we will break that contract right now, but we can do so in a backward compatible way. That's what we're learning today. We are now doing a safe refactor. So we're extracting a helper. If you read Tidy First, if you follow the refactoring guru, we're extracting a helper, but with the caveat that I would like to do it in a backwards compatible way. So rather than breaking this thing right now, I'm going to add another thing. It'll break it, but then I will add it, right? So it'll be backwards compatible, right? So what is the future thing that we want to add to this?
The label.
So label will be, so I will call it this.
Label is a string, and you have just the text inside there instead of, exactly.
Perfect. Okay, we're in full agreement. So I will add this label, right? And this will be file your taxes for December. I've done that, so thank you, reminder. Also, I've installed my on-save actions, so we are linting correctly. We saw the dangling comma up here. So thank you, Adrian, for reminding me. Here, what are we doing here?
The same. So we keep action button, but we add label.
Okay. We keep action button, but we add label. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So now it will still compile, but the new code is not being used. So how do I add this? I would say I have more actions. I don't have any good auto-correcting actions, sadly. So what we need
What do
to
you
do...
mean by that? What do you mean by that?
So when I highlight this, you can't see this right now, but when I hover over it, the editor, this red button, it gives me corrections. Now the AI might be able to help, but sadly, in this case, it didn't pick up in me wanting to add a new property to the interface. So we need to go to the interface directly. We go to the interface by clicking on it and Command B. Right, Command B. Just for those who are in the IntelliJ space, you're welcome. I am quite a stickler for learning your hotkeys, so just better get used to it. All right. Let's see.
Then let's add the missing properties then, right?
Let's add the missing property. Now, hopefully this will, yes, it will.
Yeah, now it finally it does. Yeah, yeah.
Finally it does it. So we will add a label here. And for now, I will make it optional. Optional is fine. If it's not optional, I also see that there's no errors in my compiler. There's no errors in my linter. So at least the refactoring I did is backward compatible. Now, in this step, since it's still working, I would now like to do a commit. I would now like to commit this. And for those of you who don't know it, -p allows you to split commits so that I only add those things that I want, right? So when I do this, you get an interactive editor, and you basically says, hey, you change this, do you want to add this? I say, yes, I want to add this. Hey, you change this in another file, do you want to add this? Yes, because this one doesn't make sense outside of the context. And I just say, okay, what I did is I refactored user notifications, preparing to separate mocks and JSX.
Do you prefer to use CLI over the UI when it comes to?
Yes, always.
Because
always.
we have, I had this discussion quite often, especially people back in the days where it was source tree, right? When people said you need to have this client next to your development environment, then there was a hype around Git Kraken. The Axosoft guys created that one. And
I mean, I'm a Tortoise user. You know, like I grew up in the Subversion sort of family of version control originally, and I used Tortoise, and I really liked the graphical diff tools. But nowadays, your IDE has a much better diff tool than whatever external app you have, right? So the real question is, do you want to use your IDE to do Git stuff, or do you want to use
I personally
CLI?
used my IDE. I know how to use Git, but I have a way better overview when it comes to a lot of changes in my IDE.
Yeah. I also use Vim a lot of times, so I'm very handy with the terminal. Also, I have Git Delta installed. So with Git Delta, your commits look like this. Sorry. Sorry, what was it? What's the latest? I'll do the next one when I stage it.
Maybe it's because you work in the backend and I work primarily in the front end.
Possibly.
And I have a lot of this little window of 4 lines is simply not decent enough to do
I know.
It's
like I usually work on a much larger window. But the issue is that I'm streaming and I have font size cranked up, and I want to see you on the side of the screen, and I want to see.
Yeah, I know. And it's still, it is like you want to go through multiple files.
I'm on a 24-inch 16:9 screen, and I am using 1/3 of my real estate. So that's also, this is stream Dennis, not engineering Dennis. How's the stream doing, by the way? Do we have any live viewers on LinkedIn?
No, somehow.
I think we dropped on LinkedIn. Okay.
It is still
but we
running.
It's still running. Yeah, I'm just making sure analytics is.
Now we have
showing
two
well.
again. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw it jumping up and
I
down.
got several error messages this morning when I invited people, and
Okay.
it was first green, and then I got a notification that something went wrong with
Interesting.
some in invitations. But I took a look, and it was still like invited, and then I was take a look again, and it was still just 11 attendees, and I was a little bit like, what's going on here?
Yeah, because I was running an experiment on how I scheduled the event, because in the case that something happens, I tested our routine for generically announcing both streams in case we're both busy or get hit by a bus, so that the stream is still announced.
This was this one which was basically generically announced.
This one was generic and then edited. Yes, so I wanted to see if it's
doesn't look very functional, to be honest.
Yeah, LinkedIn was definitely giving me trouble. LinkedIn was a pain in the ass to edit.
Something ran wrong today, so
yeah, something
is
went
not
wrong.
like normal, right?
Yeah. So I will definitely try to avoid it in the future. But you live, you learn. Anyway, back to the coding example. What would you do next year, Adrian? Now that we're
removing children, right? So doing the same again, remove children and refactor until it's green again.
So it is currently green, right? So do you mind if I sort of course correct a little bit and give you an alternative?
Can you quickly? We have children, so children are optional, I think. So it won't be.
Children are still mandatory, but we broke something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You broke something. Yeah, because you have a mandatory label.
Have a mandatory label.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's what I didn't want to do. Yes. So that's actually what I didn't want to do. I wanted the label to be optional exactly for this reason, to make it back.
So you can make safe refactoring. So let's go with the safe refactoring. So go into the user notifications item then, and firstly prepare the new version, which is actually some kind of flagged out or optional, like an A/B thing, depending on which property you get. So go into the item TSX on the right hand side, and now you pull the label into or destruct it from the props line 13, and then you add it like action. You could do it in like in a simple way, like children,
well,
and then question mark label.
I can do this, right? No, I can't.
No, you can't.
No, I can't. I can just do this.
No, just delete it again. So, or leave it like this and make a question mark children.
Oh, I like that because it's optional. Yeah. Oh, I like that. I actually like that. Right. So we are maintaining backward compatibility, and we're starting with our optional label. Now let me see in the browser if this still renders.
You can npm run lint, and then you get a quick linter setup.
Yeah, I'm a visual person. I will have it on my. Okay, it compiles. We are back. We're still green. Balázs, thank you for the. Yeah, all works fine. Okay, thank you, Balázs.
Hey, Balázs.
For the LinkedIn thumbs up. Definitely having some technical issues today. Okay, so we're still backward compatible, right? So what we're doing here is we just made two very small refactorings. We changed the property in a way that we already wrote the new feature, but it's not functional yet. And then we changed the interface to such a degree that it remains backward compatible while we put the real code in place. So that one is also backward compatible because we don't have any tests. So I want the compiler to tell me, yes, you didn't break anything. Right? So anything new I add has to be optional, and everything that I'm enforcing into the old system has to become optional once it is ready to be removed.
This is one of those reasons why I always prefer TypeScript over plain JavaScript, is that you have actually a form of test inside there, which is the overall type safe test, especially with the linter setup. Maybe can you quickly open the slint file, the slint configuration. In there we have it. Let's take a look if everything is fine. I haven't checked it actually. We see, for example, there's something off. There's too much off, to be honest. We need to fix that in the next session.
My recommendation would be that you do not configure your linter. Try to use default linter settings. Because because this is a robot, right? You don't want to tell the robot in high detail what to do. Like plugins
Yeah,
are
we should
fine.
just plugins, right? And then
Yeah.
I don't really know why those are there. I took them from the boilerplate and some
Yeah.
production things, so
I would remove consistent return, React no danger. That's all. But
so
the
cool.
point is, it isn't TypeScript that is helping you do this. It is the linter, because if I did this is still good TypeScript, but it shouldn't allow me to,
Take a look at Eslit. That should definitely be forbidden.
That should be forbidden. Yes, I don't know why it's enabled.
No. Please take a look. So go for any. It should have been turned off then. It's an error. So something is not right with your.
My editor is using default ESLint RC, not the project one. I think.
Then take the project one.
Yeah, let me change that real quick.
That's a matter of 5 seconds, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Disable automatic ESLint configuration. Apply. Okay. Okay, it's rebuilding. Any? No.
Instead, yeah. Yeah, now okay. Now we have it. That's better. Now I'm feeling more secure. It was a little bit strange that there was nothing red. For me, it's always everything is red.
Agreed. Okay, and it's string. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Okay.
Good.
Now it rebuilt the project. Good. I also turned on ESLint fix on unsafe because I'm just that pedantic. So this is already safe. So this was already an example of how to create a backward compatible interface and to slowly extract a helper. But now I'd actually go to the next step of extracting a helper, which is even building. So it'll make this actually go back to the code it used to be, because what I can do is I can say, I could say in here that label. I could say, what could I say? I could have the mock essentially slowly now, rather than having these things duplicated, because you see they are duplicated. What I can do instead is I can say this is my base thing I'm returning, and I want to map it. For each item that I'm mapping, I am creating a JSX fragment, which is item label, right?
What is the reason?
Because now I can remove this, and why is it not? Right? Because now I can remove it, and it still compiles. Right, so this is another example of a backward compatible refactor, but I did break it in some way because it needs to be this. Okay, we're back to green. Right, so this is another example of how I can do this very simply, because now this structure actually highlights what I want. Right, so I want this code to be in the way that I want it, but the type is still forcing me to have the backward compatible change. Right, so now I would add this. I would say, yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. And I would say I would refactored.
Okay, this sanitization is actually only interesting if you have a large code base and you need to work, let's say, in iterations to actually refactor your application.
Yes. So
for most use cases, I would see it in my, especially when it comes to component-driven things where you mostly have a closed scope. I would straight go for the change, right? I wouldn't add. This is then something I need to remove later as well. So since I do that in one commit sometimes, so it's different. So we should have some context here, maybe.
Yes. So the context is I am showing you the smallest possible steps, so that you can then dial it into your level of stress, focus, time commitment, etc. Right. So I'm making, if I check git log, right, I am making basically every little change 5 minutes long. And you can decide how many, plus we're talking and waffling in the background, right? But the point is, this will happen to you in the office as well. You'll be having emails, somebody will bother you, somebody will ask you for a code review, right? So I'm just telling you, it is not trivial to do a large change like this, especially if these types are much more complex. Now, the next step I would do is actually to go into this interface, and I would make the props for children. I don't think I can make optional, right? Is there a way to make that optional?
I don't think so.
No. But I think the children are optional.
The children are optional.
I don't have to define children, right? So that's handy, because now what I want to do, this means that this part of the mocks, this part of the map, actually doesn't need to be here, right? It can be over there in that other file.
Yeah, it's already done by the question mark, right?
Exactly. No, but my point is, it can still have children. It's just that the mapping function has to be here.
But why do you want to map it? If you define something,
again, this is just an example. This is just an example to make the change backward compatible.
I understand, but you take in this example, when you see the mock, you have the source in both of those, so you can expect them to be there anyway. Yes. So there is not much of a reason actually to map those, right?
Yes, again, in this example, it's an extremely contrived example just to show you the mechanics of the of the refactor. Because now you can see that, okay, now I'm mapping it, and only now, this is why I wanted to do this in a very long way, and I apologize if this is a little bit too contrived of an example, but only now you actually have the duplication in the right place. Because what is a duplication? This and this is duplicated, right? So previously they were also duplicated, but they were duplicated in the wrong file because they were duplicated across two files. So me, by gradually refactoring it and extracting the helper, right? So this is the helper that I've extracted. I've actually moved the duplication and made the coupling of the duplication cohesive, so that the duplication and the reason for the duplication and the duplication itself is in the same file. So now what I can do is I can just say, hey, can we just inline this? Because this is silly, right? So I am assigning children to the label, and then I'm using children in the next step, and I am mapping and mapping. So obviously the solution to this, and this fragment is unnecessary, right? So I can just do this, right? And it still renders, right? So now we went to the actual new interface. Now that I've done that, you will notice that I no longer need this map. Now it's safe. And now if I wanted to, still checking, it renders. I can now commit this, but actually, now that I've done the refactor, this this type doesn't need props for children anymore.
Yep.
Because this is not used, which makes this if statement unnecessary. Right, so that's an example. Oh, and we stopped compiling. See, I made a too large step. That was not safe. What did I do wrong? Help me out here.
I don't know. I don't see the error messages.
Okay, let's go back. Level. Children. Okay, let's go back. I made a mistake somewhere. See, I already made a mistake.
Yep.
Now it compiles. It's label or children, and label is props, use notification item. Notification item takes in children, action button, and label. Oh, so this one does need the children. So we are reusing the same interface for two different things. That's the issue. So this one actually needs children because it doesn't use the label.
Which one does use it, right?
The child React element uses children because that is how we pass in the label from the list. And that is an inconsistency in our interface. right?
But this is not wrong in the item. It is wrong in the mapping.
No, but it's wrong in the type.
No, it's not. It was correct. So if you remove children, it's correct. But here in this file, it's incorrect.
Yes, that was my point. In this file, it's incorrect.
So we need to have label here instead of
it's...
children. No, we need to remove children and add label instead. That was correct.
You think so?
Yeah.
You want to add label here?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. But then I can't use children. Then
It is okay. The children needs to go away.
But then I'm prop drilling. Do you want to do that?
But we wanted to not have the children there, because the children is actually something which carries JSX by default, and we don't want to have that.
But that problem we have solved, because the mocks don't have JSX anymore. That problem we have solved.
Yeah, but we are not working. They're not working at the moment. It
is working. It is working at the moment, but we're using both children and the label, right? Because we're using labels in the list to avoid. We are creating a text element here to avoid having to pass this on as a prop, so we don't prop drill. That's, so
well, if I have just one level of, let's say, prop drilling, then for me it's not really prop drilling, because you don't drill down. So it's just so it's okay, I think.
We can do this.
And if that would create problems, then we could have just an option or something like that. But I don't see a big of a problem there, to be honest.
Okay, agreed. So then I'll not use children. I'll use label.
Because this is the point. Then we add a lot of possibilities again with children. We don't want to have that actually.
Agreed.
And that was a decision we made in the beginning. So I would go all the way then.
Very good. So we went all the way now. Now I remove children.
Right.
Perfect. This compiles. Makes sense. So this was an example of a safe refactor. This was do I want this? Yes. Sure. Yes. And yes. So we actually refactored user notifications. And we have removed children from notification props. There we go.
Good. What's next?
Good. So this was one example. This was actually the most common one. It's the simplest one, where the steps are extremely simple. So you can decide to only do that first step that I did at the very beginning. It's going to take you a few minutes. Then you use your linter to actually check if you made a mistake. You can then add the step of making the prop optional and then adding it in a backward compatible way. And now, I'm seeing now on the screen that we can also now make the label mandatory, right? Because now we actually want to be forced to use a label, because we don't want the string to be, let's say, null. It might be an empty string, which might cause the same problems. That's something else. But at least now we've solved the problem of, we definitely don't want somebody passing in a component. We want it to be text. And that wasn't clear in our usage scenario anymore.
The question is, was that still refactoring, or was that already a change?
Because that was a behavior change. But the problem is that we didn't have any tests that would really capture our intended behavior. So it was just a benefit that we carried from the defaults of the framework. And the defaults of the framework just happened to coincide with what we wanted to do. But it kept the door open in a very wide, generic way that kept the intention of the test vague. Also, it forced us to pull JSX into the mocks, and we saw that it was completely unnecessary and even undesirable, right? Because now we can serialize this, and anytime you can serialize this, now we can save this into a JSON. Now we can put this into a database. Now we can put this into a CSV. Now we can put this into test annotations and actually create test scenarios about actually just really quickly, programmatically with AI, composing quickly a few test scenarios and just running them against some kind of UI snapshot test or DOM snapshot test, without having to fiddle around with compiling JSX into your mock system for your testing environment. That was a good example. This is the sort of separation of concerns. We have separated our intended usage behavior from the framework's typing system. So this was step number 1, and I'm just gonna amend this. Amend x1m. I will never learn. And I didn't add it.
Yeah.
And I didn't add it. There we go. Okay, so that's that. Now the other example. Any questions here? Because I'm fine just stopping on this example. I just really want to know whether our audience has any questions.
Well, it will take a while until the questions are coming, so I would.
What's coming to your mind, Adrian?
Regarding refactoring or questions?
Yeah. This particular. What did you find silly? Let's say.
When I see this, I actually I don't see any need for refactoring at the moment. Nothing which brings us more value in any way.
Agreed.
So this is nothing I would refactor right now.
Okay. You're happy with how this is structured right now?
3 maps, index. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. And
So,
with comments on what we just did? What we just did together?
Well, there's something. We have item. Can you hover over item? Item is actually the item. So what I would refactor actually is, yes, I would pass the item because it's basically the same interface. We can just pass the item.
Because we're deconstructing it, right?
Right. It is. Yeah. Sorry, I saw that late. But this is something I would suggest to refactor real quick.
Can we do that with the key as well? So you would leave the key, but
the key is part of the mapping process, so you need to leave it there.
Yeah, and then you would only, rather than having the label and destructuring it, we would just pass the item.
Item equals item.
Equals item. Perfect.
Having read again.
That's an example of tell, don't ask. Yes. So we would then refactor it again, and then we would say, wait, which item, which prop is this? So this is item. What props? It has these props. Has an item, and item is this, right? Does that make sense?
Item
is this interface. Item is this.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, maybe we've.
Because we're using the same interface.
Yeah. Maybe we need to disconnect this now.
This is exactly what I meant earlier. This is exactly what I meant earlier. Because now it highlights the problem. Because we have a
actually,
data type.
I don't use it that way. I don't know exactly why we've done this yesterday. Normally, we use a form of props then, a props interface specifically for that, which basically includes item and then the type of the interface, which can be in the same file. I don't know why we've done this, so I don't know. But yes, let's refactor this.
The type.
What do you say?
What would you do with
it's
the type?
I would don't change this one. Create a new interface.
I agree. Okay.
Create a new interface. You don't need to export this one. It is basically the iUser notification item props. So we could shorten it. It's already a little bit long.
It is, but let's start. Is it the same as that one?
And then you have item equals the interface from 9.3 then.
Okay.
It is mandatory, right? And then we are actually where we want to be.
And this is this.
Yeah, and then we need to exactly change this.
And then we don't need label from the props. Wait, do we?
We had another error anyway that basically action button was never rendered. So this is then fixed as well.
Wait, what's the problem here?
No, you need to put item inside there instead of label and action button.
Sorry, yeah. This?
Yeah, actually, that's okay. And now in your browser, action button should appear as well, which wasn't the case beforehand.
It did, yes. Before there was a bug, it didn't render properly.
Because we haven't passed it manually, and now we have it.
We haven't passed it in the list because we actually forgot about it. But our typing system didn't say, because our typing system allowed us to make it optional.
Yeah, exactly. So it was okay,
Plus, but there is a space missing, and I would need your help to. How do I add space?
We haven't styled it yet, so this would be actually something we haven't basically done yesterday, and that's the styling. So maybe we quickly do that. Just put a class name, so there's no missing space in between, and So the question is, first of all, we don't have a design here. So I would suggest that we just put something in between. So you could make, let's say, a space in between. That would be some kind of easy thing. So you to make a space in JSX, you need to make curly braces and then actually add a space.
Like this?
No, a space in a string.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
That I
don't
didn't
know.
know.
I don't like. I
That
don't
is
like
too.
that.
I don't
know why exactly, but non-breaking space point doesn't.
And I think it should be inside the it can.
I don't know exactly why. I never researched that, but
Interesting.
let's say entities. I know that this doesn't work. Entities don't work. I don't know exactly why. I don't know.
Is this a linter problem?
No, it's
Because I would like a non-breaking space between the button and the. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So
I'm not current.
the-
I'm not that current with React.
The other way would be doing
kernels.
that via, let's say, via inline flex, for example.
Okay.
And then you add a gap in between those two, but we haven't defined, and I don't think Tailwind is a thing for today or design, so let's stay with that. And then we actually have something running, right?
Perfect. So this is a very good call. You don't need to export this. It'll work because it'll still be able to find it, but it doesn't.
Can we remove
need
props, please? Because it's a warning, and we should remove.
We're not using it.
warnings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Now I'm happy that we refactored it this way. So now it makes sense. Now we're mapping it.
The
we're
last
adding
thing.
item.
The last thing is we have a generic 3 items, and I don't know where you have it. If you have it in the very same folder, it might be okay for that one. Yeah. So maybe we leave it like this. The idea was to have user notifications 3 items, just to have it consistent, because we have started to have this describing way of naming things.
We have
And
an
this one
example
is generic.
data set. Yeah, so we have an example data set. We might want to test too large data set. Does it limit itself to like 5 or 6 elements before it says more?
But
Something like
but
that.
I see the file name is already like that. So maybe we leave it like that. So it's possible that it work out on long term.
Sure.
So that's actually good refactoring. So what can we do else in form of refactoring?
So I just want to wrap this up. So that we have perfect, and this was actually a fix. Right, because we did have a bug that we didn't address yesterday, so I'm glad that we did that. I'm now going to jump over to another project because I have another example set up there. It's also TypeScript. I did send a little call out at the beginning of the stream if anybody wanted to do their code snippet or their code example, and I'm happy to course correct on that. And right now, I am going to basically be addressing the third type of refactor. Guard blocks, I'm not going to demonstrate needlessly on stream. We had a guard block in there with that and prop, should it render the label, should it render the action button. In React, all of these like guard blocks are extremely golfed. Golfing would mean that you're sort of trying to get them to as little visual space as possible, which is not what you would generally do in a backend component. So I don't want to sort of waste too much of our audience's time on that detail. I want to go over to a more complex refactoring that is safe to do without tests, but it is recommended that you actually have something a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
And this is the Gilded Rose kata. For those of you that don't know it,
I don't know it.
Shift Command F12. Okay. The Gilded Rose kata is a notorious example of how to refactor something extremely messy, and this code base is extremely messy. So the intention here is that this is extremely difficult to reason about. Now, this code base is test covered, but everything passes right now. Right? So even though this code example is confusing, it works. Now the issue is that it is extremely annoying to add something to this code base. Right? So the point of the kata is to is to follow the instructions of the okay, so it's in a different repo. I don't have it. I've structured my editor incorrectly for opening up this README. The point of the kata is we need to add conjured items to the Gilded Rose. So the Gilded Rose is an auction house, and it sells different items, and it has an inventory of items. And every day the goblin manager calls update quality, and then depending on whether or not the item was sold, its quality will increase or decrease depending on what kind of item it is, right? So cheese will get better over time until it becomes inedible and you need to throw it away, and all the other items degrade in quality essentially, right? So you have this sort of in sort of a shelf life for each item every time you call the function update quality, right? And you can see I've turned on the cyclomatic complexity warnings specifically for this project. And the cyclomatic complexity warning that I'm getting here is function update quality is overly complex. Cyclomatic complexity equals 18, right? So there are 18 different ways about how you can exit from this function. Now, the refactoring that I want to demonstrate is, in order to make sense of something like this, it is very difficult to extract a helper, because you will be structurally duplicating yourself, right? So there is duplication happening. So something that I would like to recommend as a refactoring path that is safe to do without tests is to go through each line and take note of all mutations. Right? So line 21, does it mutate anything? No. I mean, it mutates I, but it only exists inside the context of the for loop.
I would like to toss a question in between. Does it make sense? We have a quite interesting setup today because the stream is quite low regarding people. Is someone of the regulars willing to join and take the commanding person in the pair programming aspect to refactor this?
I like that. It's a great idea.
I don't name question now to stress people, but we had some comments. I just look at the people starting with K, A, G, and B. You want to join us? Toss a comment. You get a link.
If you want to join
LinkedIn.
us,
it's a matter of some minutes, and then you are here. Actually, a minute.
Yeah, you don't. If you want, you can keep your camera off, and we can just have you in as a speaker. But it will be interesting to have you on. So
that would be cool. Actually,
good.
Cool. Would be good. Good day for this, right?
Yeah.
For first time, right? Oh, we have someone of Twitch. He's probably someone who wants to join. He's actually a regular again. So today, because he was there yesterday. So, anyone? Last chance. We wait 30 more seconds for your request. That would be great. Actually, that would be a cool thing.
So we're not alone.
There's one.
Grant,
happy to show my Grant, that's great.
Send Grant a link.
Grant is grand, right?
And Anjana is working.
Wait, I send it to you, Grant.
Awesome. This would be great. Also, a heads up. An hour from now, we're having the book club on Tidy First, Kent Beck's new book. And Kent Beck is actually joining us on the call. So I would like us to be punctual today on the stream and to end off at the top of the hour, so we can.
Sorry, Sabrina.
It's great to have new.
That's actually a big difference. People from Twitch tend to have nicknames or aliases, and people from LinkedIn, it is more like the CV version of the people. So I tossed a link to Grant via LinkedIn chat. So I think
let's wait for Grant.
He can then show his ignorance.
Yeah, I usually
there he is. There he is.
Just give us a thumbs up. There we go. Hey,
hello. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Finally, we have a professional on the show.
How are you doing, Grant? Can you hear us?
Good, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
You have the stream still open
Oh yeah. Turn it
because
on
you
now.
might hear us double.
Is that better?
I mean, it's not better for me, but you might have heard us double if you still had it open.
Yeah, I can hear fine at this end. So
Perfect. Thank you for
the only
joining
thing I
us.
can think of is that it needs more if statements, I think.
It needs more statements. Yeah.
So this is
that
the
is
reason
actually-
why we're here. So
that
how
is
we
actually the
can
main
how we
point.
can raise the complexity to at least 26. This is the goal for today.
So the refactoring I want to show you to make really easy sense of this is that we actually extract all mutations and put it at the end of the file. Right? So if you would to go with me now on this journey, I would like us to go from line 21 to line 65. You know, this is a 40-line function. And I would like us to comment mark each line that has a mutation. Right? So an example would be line 25. This one has a mutation.
Yeah.
Right? Mutations of I ignoring because I'm only interested in mutations of the items. Now we're mutating different things in the items. Now, luckily, we're only ever mutating items I, never the next item or never the previous item. So there's no like weird memoization or reduction going on. We're just doing every atomic item individually. So we could extract this and put this into an item class and have each item sort of update its own quality, but it wouldn't reduce cyclomatic complexity. That's the point. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't actually get around the problem. We would only be moving the problem around into somebody else's problem domain. So, which other lines do you see that there are mutations? You just tell me the line numbers real quick.
So we definitely have 34,
Okay.
39.
Mm-hmm.
39. All right.
We have 46.
Yeah.
We have 54. Is it 54?
53. Yeah.
53, right?
Yeah, 53. And it's missing a comma.
61.
Okay, you're way ahead of me. Nice. And 61. And then that's the last one. So we're mutating the array in place. This item is not actually mutation. We're just returning what's already there. Right? So this is mutating the quality and also returning it. So it's a getter and it has destructive side effects, and it is also a getter. Right? So it is the worst of all things. Now, I would like to highlight what we are mutating, which path we are mutating, right? So on this mutation, we're updating quality. We're mutating quality. On this one, we are mutating quality.
Mm-hmm.
On this one, we are mutating quality. On this one, we are mutating cell in, which is interesting. On this one, we're mutating quality. And then on this one, we're mutating quality. Right? Now, just brain parsing it top to bottom, this one was not obvious to me.
Yeah.
Because this function is actually doing two things. It's actually enforcing an invariant around the quality, and it's enforcing an invariant around the cell in.
It is not honest, and it's violating the principle of least astonishment.
Exactly. And that's why this. But I know a lot of code bases that have code like this. If I open up any kind of like God object controller in a large Symfony application, or something that handles forms, or a React form of some kind, or a reducer of some kind, I will find code like this. And the point is that it's really hard to brain parse, but if you do this step of separating out mutations and just focusing on the mutations, then you can really highlight what's going on here.
So can we already set a goal, in your opinion, that we actually going to separate those in two separated functions to have separation of concerns met?
Not yet, because there is
not yet, but as a goal, right?
Yes, so there is something nasty in here, right? Because my goal was, let's move this and then just be done with it. Now, if I move it to the for loop, if I extract the for loop, I will reduce syncromatic complexity a little bit, right? So what I can do is say, this is the for loop. I will say, extract. I'm using my editor. So right click, refactor, extract method, which is option command M.
It's hard even to give it a proper name at this point, is it? So
It is very hard. It is very hard.
It
And
will
I'll
be a
put it-
long name, right?
yeah,
and I will put it into this class, and I will call it, what do we call it? Update item quality and sell in. I'm just being stupid. I'm actually calling it what it does,
know what it does.
right? So I am updating the item with index I. That's the point. That's what I'm doing. Now I can see that this function mutates this items. So if this items was not an array, but some kind of object that would encapsulate the array, I would now be able to move this method over to that function. But that is not the purpose of this exercise. Now, what you will notice is that it no longer has a warning for complexity, because this function's complexity went down. What's surprising is that this function's complexity also went down. We went from 18 to 17 because we lost one contribution to the cyclopath complexity, which is this one, right? So that's also a safe refactor. And if you're pressed for time, and if you're one of those people that just they don't want to refactor, don't want to refactor, don't want to refactor, don't want to refactor, and then once in a blue moon they refactor and they can't stop, this would be a great point to stop, because you already made an improvement. The code still works, and it's not worse. It's better. A little bit better, but a very little bit better.
First step is done, right?
But first step is done. Yes, this was a non-destructive, and I would even leave the comments in, even if they might seem a little bit stupid. Now let's continue. I want to move these mutations out of the if statements. Now, how would I do that safely? There's a catch here that is not quite obvious. Just take a look at it.
Is there any way to get the guard clauses out to put them up at the top?
There is, but the guard clauses actually nest way too far.
Yeah.
If I do what you just said, I will actually end up with very similar code to this, right? Because the guard clauses are extremely nested. And you can see that I have an aged breed check here, and also another aged breed check here at a different level of nesting. It is actually very difficult to extract this guard clause. That is a very good intuition, but this example is actually the Gilded Rose Kata is actually a very challenging exercise, because extracting guard clauses leads you down the wrong path, right? So it's a bit of a trap, because you have the same guard clause on different levels of nesting.
So we had tests, right?
We have tests, yes.
Okay.
This has an acceptance. It has a snapshot test, and one of the tests is, did you add magic items? And then the rest is the snapshot test.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I can rerun them to check.
Okay, first of all, what I would do is, since the longer I look at it, the more it's complex. Let's say it is it takes a while until you actually understand what's going on, and I still don't have the flow in my head. Maybe it's because I don't have the control over the mouse or something like that, where I want to scroll up and down and reading things. But my problem is that I still don't know what happens in which order. This is a little bit of my problem right now, and I would try to rip that apart as first.
So,
Grant, would you agree, or would you do it differently?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm thinking part of the issue is to be able to cement the mutations in my mind. You could create small procedures that would increment quality, increment.
Very good.
And
Very
then you
good.
pass that in. So immediately that will mean that you've extracted the bits that mutate out of there.
So you already picked it up. So not only is this one changing quality, but it's actually decrementing it.
Yeah.
This one is incrementing it. This one is incrementing it. This one is decrementing salad. And this one is decrementing quality. And then this one is, we missed one. This one is quality, and it's, I don't know what this does. It's it turns sets to 0.
Yeah,
Right,
I think
because-
what that does is it simplifies it a lot in terms of you can actually extract something that is plain English rather than,
Exactly.
you don't have that cognitive load on your head to try and work out what those are.
Okay,
That's
so
a good
shall we do
point.
that now? So we extract this as decrement quality.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we say, so it's command option M. Okay, quality in the downstream may have been mutated in upstream. Sorry for my ignorance, or where can you see the level of complexity?
I just wanted to mention that. Can you make a comment, because you are the only one who's seeing that right now, I think. So maybe
Yes.
make a little comment above the thing, and every time it
No,
decreases.
it's okay. I just turn on the problems.
Okay,
This is the warning. So when you can't see my hover because I'm selectively, when you selectively stream share a window, it doesn't show you the tooltips and the pop-ups. So, but this is the comment, right? So our cyclomatic complexity is 7. Right. So the quality deduction by 1 is always conditioned with item count greater than 0, and they can be combined. It's a great point. And I would like to test that path as well. It's very interesting path to take. But right now, I won't grant the I want to follow Grant's lead because you're heading down the right direction. So you would say this what I have here in the comments. We extract this out as a method.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So then in plain English, the method
To
would
get
just
plain
say,
English onto the screen. Very good intuition. Yes. To get plain English onto the screen. So this is no, sorry, wrong hotkey. And the class decrement. Okay. Let's say degrade quality.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. And it will decrement it by 1. Right. So degrade quality.
It's always the same, right? We can.
Yeah. Degrade quality. So degrade is always by 1. Let's make up that domain term. And now I can remove this comment because I have an extracted helper that captures that comment, right? So what I did, this is actually another refactoring called extracting helper. I had a comment block, and I extracted a helper that does what the comment block used to say, making the comment block unnecessary.
Yeah.
If you're watching and your code base has comment blocks that explain what functions do or what lines of code do, this is a natural refactoring step. Take the comment, take the code block, and then make the code, extract the helper which has a function name that describes what the comment says. So this one would be, no, sorry, wrong hotkey. What did I just do? I went to the wrong window.
Your only danger with that is if you name all of your procedures and somebody then refactors later on in the day and changes actually instead of decrementing it, incrementing it because of a bug, if they don't change the method name, then you have the same issues that you would with a bad comment.
They'll have a merge conflict. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
That also contributes to the stress. A team that has very long-lived feature branches, that doesn't integrate continuously, that doesn't integrate their code more than once per day, is actually increasing their level of stress whenever they refactor. Because their structural changes need to be compatible with the structure of somebody else's long-lived branch.
Yeah.
And that is one of the main anti-patterns in large teams, which is why I don't commit with git add u and then commit. I commit with git add -p to really say I'm doing a refactor, and then I'm cherry picking that refactor immediately to the main branch. So even if I'm not merging this to the main line today, I am definitely merging the refactor. This is also another sort of separation of concerns idea when it comes to Git, is that separate out your commits that do refactors from commits that do behavioral changes, and get the refactors merged as fast as possible, even without a code review if necessary. That's the point, right? So that's the idea behind stress-free refactoring. Your refactoring should never linger on a long-lived branch.
It is actually extremely important, yeah.
It's extremely important. I can show you another code base that I'm setting up for a course / sort of live course, and you will see my commit log where I do that. And 60% of my commits are small refactors. Right? So a lot of teams are just missing out on all of the benefits of refactors because they are scared to commit the refactor, not refactoring itself. because they are worried that it will immediately cause a conflict on somebody else's long-lived branch. Let's continue. We're doing great on time. This one is so the comment matches.
Yeah.
I believe it's safe to assume this is increased quality.
Yeah.
Okay. So cell in, this is new. Cell in. Okay, I would say, okay, I should know the hotkey by now. Decrement cell in. Now, I'm using stupid wording here because I haven't explained the domain, so I want to use your terminology. I actually know what's going on behind the scenes because I've played World of Warcraft. I know how this auction house works. But, that is privileged information. I haven't explained the domain. I just want to show you the mechanics of it so you can...
I didn't realize it was World of Warcraft. I used to have
it was World of Warcraft.
level 70 wizard. It was a very good way to get a team together. We had people in Winchester and we had people here. So, lots of different IT people. We got to know each other. I
used to play with my coworkers as well. We were on different servers constantly, but once they added the option to sort of...
So Dennis is now creating the architecture guild or what?
I have 20,000 hours of World of Warcraft, just so you know.
So you're basically in the beginner state of being a World of Warcraft raid or what? Just the trial shift of 20k hours.
Between the ages of 15 and 25, I lived World of Warcraft. But I stopped playing... I played World of Warcraft for 10 years. And I stopped playing.
A lot of awesomeness there.
I have all of my collectors up on the shelf that is just outside of the screen. And I've played World of Warcraft for 10 years. And I stopped playing 10 years ago.
So it's time to start again, or what is your...
I'm that old. So...
you toggled up by decades, or what?
I'm that old.
Anyway,
so this one we already have.
It's my fault, right? I digress.
So this one we already had. This is the great quality. What is this? Is this the grade or is something else?
Sets it to 0.
Sets it to 0.
Yeah, it's actually set to 0.
What a crazy way to do it. It's
so it's actually something we could just remove, right? So it's just
that logic.
No, just reset it by literally writing down 0, which is quite easy. It's way more easy to understand. Because mathematically, it cannot be anything else than that. Otherwise, okay. I'm bad at math, maybe.
Do we want to encapsulate this into a helper function?
No.
No.
Unnecessary.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't really save something with that, right? So of course people could argue that if you want to, but how do you actually reset something? So then the baseline should be something different than 0.
See, I think maybe later you might want to introduce, instead of passing the I, that you pass the object in, and then you have mutations on an object.
Agreed.
That might be different.
But
we're not there yet, I don't think. So.
We're not there yet. Yeah. And that's also a trap, because if you start doing that, you'll notice that depending on the type of the object, the rules are different. So you'd actually have to encapsulate this entire if statement into that extracted function, and you actually didn't reduce the complexity of the function. And you'll notice we're not reducing complexity, but we're also not increasing it. So these are all safe refactors. Now, what is this one? This is quality increment. Okay, so this is increase quality I. Awesome. Again, if you're stressed for time, if you're hunting a tight deadline, this is a good improvement, right? You can go to the terminal. You can say, terminal, thank you. You can say, you can go to the terminal, add -p, say yes, and you're done. And you say, hey, refactored, what is this? Gilded Rose, reduced complexity of update quality. Because you notice that the function is lying. It's not just updating quality, it's also reducing cell in, right? Because that's part of the domain rules, right? So the part of the domain rule says that cell in can... This if statement basically goes, if the quality becomes if there's something really wrong with the item, set its quality to 0. That's the sort of idea here.
Already my anxiety is like going down on the code base. Just seeing some plain English, it's much better.
Where would you want to take this next? So if you were to add one more step here, what would you do?
If I was
maybe now, go ahead.
If I was going to suggest a next thing, it would be to look at the if statements and do a similar thing on those functions in there. So, if instead of having items equal to name not equal to sulfurous and of Ragnaros, you can rewrite those to something more readable.
Okay. Now, in order for us to, let's say, make more sense of this, I will pull in the README, the domain definition for this project to help you out a bit.
Yeah.
Because right now we're doing mechanical changes, and maybe we could benefit from a little bit more structure. Right. So let's add a README. README. Right. So the Gilded Rose Kata says, "Hi and welcome to Team Gilded Rose. As you know, we're in a small inn with a prime location in a prominent city ran by a friendly innkeeper named Ellison. We also buy and sell only the finest goods. Unfortunately, our goods are constantly degrading in quality as they approach their sell-by date. We have a system in place that updates our inventory for us. It was developed by a no-nonsense type named Leroy, who has moved on to
Good.
You know about Leroy. Your task is to add the new feature to our system so that we can begin selling a new category of items. First, an introduction to our system. All items have a sell-in value, which denotes the number of days we have to sell the items. All items have a quality value, which denotes how valuable the item is. At the end of each day, our system lowers both values for every item." Pretty simple, right? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Once the sell-by date has passed, quality degrades twice as fast. The quality of an item is never negative. Aged brie actually increases in quality the older it gets. The quality of an item is never more than 50, with an exception being that sulfurous, being a legendary item, never has to be sold or decrease in quality. Backstage patches like aged brie increase in quality as its sell-in value approaches. Quality increases by 2 when there are 10 days or less, and by 3 when there are 5 days or less, but quality drops to 0 after the concert. This was the backstage pass, the setting it to 0. Right? So that was not obvious from the code. We have recently signed a supplier of conjured items. This requires an update to our system. Conjured items degrade in quality twice as fast as normal items. This is the new feature. Right? But we can't add this because we have no idea. It's not obvious to us that the system is doing this.
Yeah.
Feel free to make any changes to the update quality method and add any new code as long as everything still works correctly. And it was working correctly before we started with refactoring. However, do not alter the item class or items property, as those belong to the goblin in the corner who will insta-rage and one-shot you as he doesn't believe in shitful ownership. You can make the update quality method and items property static. We want to do that if you like. Just for clarification, an item can never have its quality increase above 50. However, sulfurous is a legendary item, and as such, its quality is 80, and it never alters. So you can't increase above 50, but sulfurous' quality is always 80. It doesn't increase or decrease. It just is breaking the rules without mutation. So that's the domain. That's the business domain. Now, watching this code, I would wager that it's not clear that this is happening. You know, that it increases twice. Oh, actually, we missed one. We missed one here. Line 37. We missed one.
6 pair of eyes.
6 pair of eyes, and we missed one.
Yeah.
See, it's that easy. This is increment I. Right? These are because have you seen it decreases in quality twice as fast. That's why there are wait, was it? +1, yes. Okay. Right, so that's why you see degrade quality, and then there is a separate block of if statements, and this one degrades quality again. Right, so this is the twice as fast. but it's not obvious from the code.
Yeah, it's totally not.
It's totally not obvious that this if statement is completely separate from this one.
Yeah.
And actually, this check of cell in is modified by this one. And this cell in, this decrement, is happening before this happens.
This is like anti-OO. This is
completely anti-OO.
This all inside.
It's actually very difficult to extract this. Yes.
But when you actually read the requirements there, you could see an inheritance model you kind of put in there where you would have an item, and then you'd have basic rules on that item at that bottom that says these are the item rules, and then the specifics, the brie and the things you inherit from, and you mutate those slightly.
Right.
So each you have different layers of abstraction all the way through. The problem is how to do that safely, or how to migrate.
Exactly.
Because if you sit down and write that immediately,
and the temptation is for a, let's say, novice engineer is to say, this is so complicated to read, I'll just re-implement it following the rules.
Yeah,
and they will create something equally as convoluted. That's the trap. That's the temptation. Because this thing right now works. It has worked before we started refactoring, right? So it is valuable business code. But for the engineer, the temptation is, I want to rewrite this. I hate this. I want to rewrite this. But there is no plausible business reason to do so because it works, with the exception of it is extremely annoying to add that new feature because you don't know where to put it without being affected, because there is all this mutation going on and you actually have to brain parse it. Like, should I make an exception for is conjured item and then just return from the function? Should I update it differently? Right? Because we could say if this item conjured, update quality, return. But then I actually make this function extremely more complicated. I would be increasing the cyclomatic complexity. Right? So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say 10 rules. I would expect cyclomatic complexity of 10. I would be happy with 10, but this one has 17. Right? So what else would you like to do? So the refactoring step that we did is we have extracted helper functions that capture mutations. With the exception of reset quality for backstage passes. So this if statement is only executed for backstage passes.
Yeah.
Right? It says if this item cell in is smaller than 0. What does this mean?
Well, you could remove that as another subroutine, couldn't you?
Yes.
So
Yes, extract another helper. What does cell in smaller than 0 mean? This means that, so cell in can never be negative. So cell in being smaller than 0 means that it was 0 when we entered the function and it got decremented here.
Yeah.
Right? So if it was decremented here, it means that it was 0, so it was past its due date. And then this statement basically handles past due date operations. And you will notice that this is doing, if it's not aged brie and not backstage pass, and quality is greater than 0, and it's not sold for us, then if it's past its due date, it will degrade in quality.
These are all the overloads on your inheritance model, really.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's very hard to extract it. But this one is only for the backstage pass. So we could invert this if statement. So this if statement we could invert.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be like one step. What does this one mean in the terminology of which statement is this? If you're doing BDD, which one is this?
So the first clause on the if the cell date is passed, yeah, so that's pretty simple. So it's after that.
Okay, where does it say that?
So halfway down.
Once the cell date by date has passed, quality degrades twice as fast.
And then it's got the overloads. The quality is never negative. That's the guide clause you got at the top, and then you've got the cases in there of age, brie.
Okay. So I would like to extract a helper function with this terminology. Cell by date has passed.
Yeah.
And this is this. Right? This is sell by date has passed. I'm introducing. Now, I might not introduce a function for this because it might be silly. So I'm going to introduce a constant, which is command option C in IntelliJ. Right? So I'm going to say, and it's important that it's exactly above the if statement. Remember, we have mutations going on. Right? So this means sell by date has passed. Right? I'm putting English, plain English, into the convoluted code. I have made the code a little bit larger, but I have not increased synclomatic complexity. Introducing variables does not increase synclomatic complexity.
But you're also mapping it to documentation, which is really
Exactly to the business domain rules, and I am sort of, you know, in the context of doing BDD. Okay, and we actually have some comments. Balazs mentions the quality deduction by 1 is always conditional with item count greater than 0, and they can be combined. Okay. Quality in the downstream may have been mutated upstream. Yes, exactly. That's one of the tricky parts of this code base. That's why it's hard to extract a method and put it onto a class, because they're actually this twice as fast as being handled by a rerun of the function by having the quality increase copied again. But then the if statements are being convoluted based on which elements actually follow that rule. So this is a rule engine. And if you notice, if you go check out that Kevin Henney's talk where he goes into great detail on the naming on this, he actually mentioned that this is a rule engine. Rule engines can be expressed with declarative language. These items can be enumerable, excluding a name that is in the if condition, right? So we could actually simplify down what is being passed on so that the I, and then we could actually get the name of the item in, not I, so that we wouldn't have to make if statements for it constantly. And Balazs says, wondering if there's a possibility of my smaller than 50 check and then increase of 2. So rather than having a helper function that increases by 1, we can decrease by twice as fast when we know whether we're already in that clause. If we were in that... Adrian, you just posted something to me.
Yeah, I just did it. Meanwhile, I thought to myself it was...
Okay.
No, I wasn't. It was actually when you've done, so ignore that until you're done. And then I want you to ask what you both think of what I just tossed.
Okay, I don't have Slack open, so I will need to reorganize myself. Could you paste it in private chat, please?
Here? Okay.
Yeah, on private chat on our stream. Because I do want to wrap up. Let's say
it doesn't work actually.
Oh no.
It's cut it.
If we were to do one more refactor, Grant, you can finish this exercise at home and sort of let us know how you did it. You know, maybe publish it on GitHub, and then we can chat about it after the show. What is the most offensive thing for you here? If we were only to do one more small refactor. All right, so we passed the mutations. We know that there are 2 blocks which are affecting each other, 3 blocks, right? So there's this block, then this block can affect this block, and then this block can do the last one. So I'm giving you a hint. I just gave you a hint.
So you're saying that there are separate blocks, yeah?
Yes.
So you could have separate routines for each one of those blocks.
Exactly, right? So this I don't know. I think Kent mentioned it in Tidy First as well. But this is basically ordering our, let's say, business logic in cohesion order. To actually separate out something happens here that follows business rules. Now it follows them correctly. The code works, but it is extremely difficult to follow. But the order in which it happens has to be exact. Now, rather than dismantling this and then figuring out how to hyper optimize increment twice and do increment plus 2 instead, because that's also one of the traps. Like, you can really get distracted doing that. You can just extract this and make it completely safe to do so. So option command M, extract method, boom. What do I call this? What is the first step?
Is there anything in the documentation that will step through
So
what it's supposed to do.
the function is degrade, increase, right? So if it's not age debris or backstage pass, then degrade quality, unless it's sold for us.
So this
If it is debris or age or backstage pass, we increase the quality. And then if it's a backstage pass and sell-in is great, then we increase quality one more time. And then if it's
this is the standard behavior, isn't it?
This is the standard behavior. Yes.
Standard behavior. So you'd say initial behavior.
So we're just bumping quality here, right? So if, I would name it something quality related.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say update item quality. We can call this. I don't know. So we called update quality. Update quality has a routine called update item quality and sell in, and we can say update daily. Okay, update item quality daily. Do that daily thing first, right? So this is 1 day's worth of update. And it covers all of the peculiarities of all of the functionalities. Now, this one I will just call decrement sell in. And you will notice that decrement sell in, I only use once. I only use it in this function.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will actually leave this function here, and I will move the if statement inside decrement. Is it obvious what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Right, so I will move decrement here. And I will just have decrement, right? Because I'm decrementing selling on the item, and I want the method to know, hey, so for us doesn't require decrementation.
Yeah. And then the final bit, you can have update item past selling date. Yeah.
And that is the update quality, the update item quality for items. Okay, great.
And then it reads nicely as you go down. It's just update item quality daily.
And this is what I meant in the very beginning. We need to have this flow order in order to understand and don't lose. The problem is when we jump in code like we've done it, we'll be basically constantly losing context.
Sell by date has passed. Update. So I'm gonna call this update quality for sell by date passed item.
I mean, even if this is all you do, this is light years ahead of where you were at the start.
And we have gotten rid of the warning for synclimatic complexity. Now, individually, these are still complicated. But now you can see that, this one that looked like a very benign mutation actually has important business logic. So we see that if I were to create a subclass for each item, each of them would have this in their update clause.
Yes.
And only solve for us would have a no up, which is this path, right? So this is no up. So solve for us would have an empty function body for decrement, and all the other items would have this one. Right, so what I can do here is I can flip the statement and create a guard block. I can say, flip this around. This is default behavior, and if solve for us, return.
That looks nicer, way nicer.
Right?
Yeah. Quick return at the top.
The guard block.
Always quick return.
This was also another tidy refactor, right?
Sure.
But previously I did not dare to do this because I was not inside the function. So return for me was an extremely risky operation, because I would also have returned out of doing this decrement, and I didn't know whether that was safe to do.
Yeah.
Right, and then we can continue on with this example now. But I would like to stop here because we've highlighted the main tidyings.
Does it build and test? Is the test passing?
one of them has to fail because it's the new feature, but the acceptance test has to pass. Ooh, it doesn't. Okay, we made a mistake. Oh no, it's coverage error. So the tests pass, but it claims we don't have the same coverage anymore.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Oh no, yeah, the tests actually fail. We made a mistake. We made a mistake somewhere. Oh, I hate to end the show like this.
The thing is,
this.
Now from a higher perspective, I don't know if I would, you've basically done that from inside out, the refactoring.
Yes.
So you get very deep and take the deep things and pull it up onto the let's say, as a sibling to the actual function, which is executing that. So I am not sure if I would see this type of complexity, this mess, I would, even if the test passes, I would not believe that it's actually 100% working without any flaws. So I would tend to rebuild, to be honest, because I think we only have one function here. In the end, it's one function. So we don't have several functions and several files. So we're talking about one component in the end. So refactoring the entire component by rebuilding that would be a viable way for me, because I could.
They pass now because I made a mistake when I flipped the guard block. This was a not sulfurous, and I inverted it, and I forgot to invert the. And Balazs just told me forgot to negate the sulfurous check. Yes, so thank you.
Read the comments, documentation. No.
Yes.
What I passed to you some minutes ago was a version. While we were doing that, I passed the domain business requirements and the actual topic to ChatGPT. In the configuration I use.
I like that.
And now I want to compare it with you, because we have done several AI things already together. So I would like to have that side by side. And I don't say anything because
it did get truncated though.
Wait a second. I give you a second one, please. It doesn't. No, it's not truncated. This one isn't.
It truncated for me in chat, unfortunately.
You need to do that from Slack. It doesn't work in private chat here.
From Slack. Okay.
It's truncated here indeed. And I want to know from you both what you think about that type of code.
Okay.
And how this was managed by the AI actually.
Okay.
So AI got the requirements and the original code.
Okay. Sorry, I just need to open up Slack because I usually close Slack while I'm streaming because so it's actually quite a big.
It is an entire refactoring. I ordered a refactoring.
It's quite a big refactor. You gave me 2 code blocks.
2 code blocks, right? Take the second one.
The second one. Okay, thank you. So I will just create a new file. Yes, comment 1. Thank you. So this is Adrian.
No, it's AI. I wasn't doing that.
Okay.
Well.
ChatGPT. Okay. And ChatGPT says this.
So maybe you need to format this.
Yeah, I don't have a linter set up for this one.
Yeah,
so it started with some constants.
Yeah.
Just as a heads up, I do want to wrap up today's session in 8 minutes. Right, so I don't want to go too deep on this example. So what you're interested in, this is what ChatGPT produced. Okay.
It started with the update quality function. So this is basically the function you call, as far as I understand.
So it created a declarative. It created a declarative loop rather than the for loop, which I like. We get rid of the I and we simplify this into the item. But we can
easier
do this
to
as
read,
well.
but it's actually slower in execution. So if that would be a large algorithm, we should go for that.
Because we can do this here as well, right? But to me, that wasn't the biggest problem to deal with.
No, it wasn't.
Right?
This is just a developer experience problem for now, but it can be a performance problem if it would be a real auction house with 1 million of items. Then we should have a different thing.
Because you would possibly even want to pull iterated with the generator
Yeah.
and not actually map, filter, map, filter, map, filter, because you're creating new
Yeah.
copies of the array every time.
So essentially, we talked about it earlier about it passing in the item object rather than an iterator and then
Okay. Switch item name. Oh, so this is basically creating subclasses for the routine,
Yeah.
subroutines for each rule. Backstage pass has rules. Aged Brie has a special rule. Solve for us only does ever this, which is weird because it's mutating solve for us, which is a human would not have written it this way. That would be my first comment. Conjured items are the new items we need to add, and then there are regular items. I'm glad we got to this idea of regular items because this is the default baseline. This is the default baseline step that we have actually in this function, item quality daily, but we didn't know what to name it. So our function update item quality daily is actually the regular items update. But I'm assuming update backstage pass duplicates update regular item, right? So it calls it.
But we'll see.
No, it copies it. Okay, so it's the code is duplicated. Cell in minus minus. Again, a human would not write code like this. Cell in might be smaller than one. Handle expired item. I like this naming, handle expired item. What I would do is I would extract all of these magic strings into an enum, possibly. Just for safe refactoring in the future.
And again, all of these are fine in terms of declarative code, but it depends really as to whether you wanted to do something where you wanted to sort of decorate the item. In which case, instead of having the update, you could have an update object which is isomorphic across all of the different objects, and each one has implementation. Then it's encapsulated. Every single item is encapsulated with its own logic.
But the point is that this is in essence a rule engine, and I've sort of cheated a bit. I've seen thousands of Gilded Kata refactorings. And actually, if you implement it as a rule engine, that is the most human, optimal way of declaring it. Declaratively stating all of the rules in like a stringly typed declarative engine, like as if you were writing an Nginx config. You just declaratively you define the config the same way as is described in the business rules, and you can express this entire logic in about 15 lines of code. Right. So even though I would applaud ChatGPT's valiant effort to actually give it really good names, it is still too granular to brain parse because we actually have different paths. But
the interesting part,
classes.
The interesting part would be to exactly say that to ChatGPT and see the results. So since it's an AI and you said a human would not write this, you need to just tell it to the AI, right?
Adrian, there is the caveat that this is an exercise.
I know.
This is on GitHub. And Gilded Rose has about, I think, 10,000 different solutions on GitHub. And ChatGPT has seen all of them.
Exactly.
So ChatGPT has been trained on all of the human-created solutions of Gilded Rose Kata. So it might be overfitting the solution space here. I think if you apply this to any other business problem with a little bit more fuzzily named business rules, because these rules are extremely precise. This is written by an engineer. If you were to give a little bit more fuzzy business rules, I'm sure
definitely
the AI,
different.
It will definitely produce lower
maybe last thing for the last minutes is, does it pass the test?
How do I quickly? Is it exporting anything? Let me.
It should be copy pastable. If it that is
the approval
even a
test,
word.
right? Where is the approval? Import item and Gilded Rose from @GildedRose. Now I would like to run it real quick. I don't think I can safely copy this WED THU snapshot. So I didn't run a snapshot on it, so I don't know what happens exactly. I don't know how to run this code against this snapshot from that other implementation. I can promise to do this off stage and prepare it, but I don't want to mess with it, and I don't want to copy paste that into this right now because I don't think it's structurally equivalent.
It's important, I think, in this kind of thing is to realize that where you have different if statements up and down is probably where you get 90% of all your errors in coding.
Exactly.
It's because I'm doing something here, and then 200 lines later, I'm doing something
Yes.
here,
Yes.
and then 200 lines, I'm doing something else here.
Mhm.
It's very those code bases are really hard to do. You tend to
And
get
what I would highlight is that what we did. Okay, comment from Balazs. Nice refactoring, liked it. But if there would be no test, as you see, even as seniors, we can easily make mistakes. Just as Adrian said, maybe implementation is more effective, but there's a risk.
How would that be?
We might have the original requirements, but might be obsolete update, which might already be in code, not in documentation. So I made a mistake, and then running the test helped me find the mistake. If I had stopped a bit sooner, and we were able to recover it. So you're right, the tests helped. The point was that most of the changes were actually benign structural changes that were completely safe to run. I only messed up on the step where I manually flipped a guard block, and I didn't use my IDE to do so, right? So only when I thought I was really smart, I made a mistake. Right? So that can be avoided if you don't do things manually. So I was being very pedantic about using the editor to do a safe refactor, safe extract, introduce constant at the right line of code, right? Because if we had put the constant at the top of the file, it would not be correct because we're mutating the quality check a second time. So Denis got over his head. I thought I was smart enough, and then I actually made a mistake. But these are all structural changes that are safe to do even without tests. And that was sort of the point of the exercise. Grant, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for
It's great
inviting
to
me
finally
along.
meet
It was a lot less stressful than I thought it would be. So thank you, guys. All due to you.
That's actually a great thing. So you're one of the most regular audience people we have. I think you are basically on every show in the audience, isn't it?
I think I probably have seen most of them. But these sort of things I think are quite interesting because they show exactly how you should be with juniors and other people you work with. It's you know, coding isn't easy. It isn't easy to stay in a good fun head. But you work it through together, and two people always better than one person.
Yeah, it is this ping pong game we play, right? And it is like. It is so. Let's be honest. So even if you are a senior developer, so just symbolically speaking now, it doesn't mean that you just because of your experience you don't make mistakes anymore. It is because you are under the same rules and circumstances and limitations with your brain, basically, right? So he's waving.
I think I probably make even more mistakes because you have the arrogance of thinking that you know, right?
Right.
And in fact, that's the hardest thing is having somebody else asking you questions always checks and stops you from going too far down. And then this is the problem. When you're in flow, you can go and you can do 2-3 hours, you can walk away, you come back for a coffee, and then you look at the code and you go,
Who wrote this?
Yes.
Oh,
so
damn.
I do need to come up now.
It was me.
I'm very sorry. I will strict cutoff today. I'm meeting Ken Beck just now in the book club.
Then it's
so thank you so
close
much.
for
I have
today,
to jump
right?
off. I would ask you please to close off the stream. Grant, thank you so much for joining us live.
No problem. Bye.
And take care.
Goodbye. So, thank you very much, everyone. And we have next week our next stream, which is on Wednesday, about progressive web apps. That's actually for 2 weeks. So maybe we have a second one on the Wednesday after that. And we will definitely talk about modern web technologies as well, which is basically a combined package. And the idea is to solve the question, will progressive web apps basically push away native apps from their current standing, in, let's say, your mobile phones on all devices out there. So are they actually a replacement, PWAs, for native web apps? In my opinions, they are already. I'm using them myself in production. So we are using them actually for years already. I posted today about that. And this will be actually the topic. So I want to prove for myself if I'm right there with my assumption that they are actually far enough to become a substitution or not. So there are some downsides currently. Thanks to this little Apple thing, we have some let's say, limitations there still, but those are not game stoppers anymore. So of course there are niches and edge cases where you definitely need to have something native, but you could combine that, for example, with things like oh God, I forgot how it's called. I forgot how it's called. But anyway, we will take a look over it the next time on Wednesday. And the day after, we have extreme programming with a guest again. So announcement will come from Dennis then. Looking forward to see you all there. It will be great. Talking about especially PWA, which is one of my favorite topics. We will stay with the same code base. I promise we will definitely publish the GitHub repository. And we will publish as well the community. So we're creating at the moment a Circle SO community for our tech journey. We invite everyone to join there. This is basically a place about this stream, about this format, to be able to network there with all the people from the audience, to know exactly when which stream is coming, and to just, connect easier to us in the community. So this is the overall idea about it, because at the moment it's quite loose. We have 4 stream targets. Most of the stuff is on LinkedIn, but not everything, and it's a little bit complicated. So we want to solve those 2 things by having the Circle SO thing, Circle SO, and the GitHub repository, where we will work in for the next probably month to come, because it's a mono repository. So we will have multiple projects inside there, so you can take a look after the shows what we've done, and you can contribute. So public repositories, just make a pull request if you like. So thank you very much for listening today. I will turn off the music now, and we see us then next Wednesday, hopefully. Goodbye, everyone.